Thank you, everybody, and good afternoon and good morning who are those who are online. I'll start telling a story. It was in 1942. Albert Einstein was teaching at Oxford University, and he was, giving the exam to the class, to the final exam of the year. And right after he presented the questionnaire, one of the assistants actually, after reading the question, asked, but Professor, aren't those actually the same questions that you gave us, the same questionnaire that you gave us last year? Yes, absolutely, said Einstein. But Professor, I can possibly do? We know the answer. And then Einstein replied, well, actually, no, because the answers have changed. This little story is actually valid still today. We had the same question we had a couple of years ago. How we manage a vessel, how we operate, how we survey a ship. But the answers across these couple of years of pandemic have actually changed. And today I'd like to get you through the state of the digital transformation in a post-COVID. We are recovering from COVID in the maritime industry, and see what has changed. Have a look at how the pandemic has impacted digital transformation. So, first of all, how has the industry been impacted? How has the maritime, the shipping industry been impacted? Definitely two ways. Number one, an increased need of transparency. In the height of the pandemic in 2020, within weeks, the global retail sales jumped of 3%, reversing 675 billion US dollars in online trade into the supply chain, and therefore pressing the supply chain for transparency and digitalization. Number two, the need to survive, the need to operate for the supply chain. All the players along the supply chain have looked at the digital technologies to cope with the restrictions that were brought by the pandemic. So the easiest of the one was start to move into video conference. So no doubts that the pandemic has accelerated the digital transformation. As Inmarsat, we could witness that the average data consumption per day per ship moved from 3.4 gigabyte in January 20 to 9.8 gigabyte in March 21. It's almost threefolded. But what does that mean in monetary terms for the industry, for the digital, for the spend on digital solutions and services? Well, already in 2018, in one of our reports, we were, as Inmarsat, we were forecasting that the average spend of a ship manager, ship owner in digital solution was about 2.5 million per year. In 2019, pre-pandemic, we were forecasting a global spend in digital in the maritime industry of about 124 billion US dollars. The actual spend was 122. So it was a good forecast. And for 21, we were forecasting 160 billion. We're still crunching the numbers, but actually we spent more. For 2022, as long as the prediction goes, we will be 3 years ahead of the forecast pre-pandemic. And by 2030, the industry will be worth 350 billion, which is 70 billion up from the 280 billion that was forecasted already in 19. So again, no doubt that the pandemic has accelerated digital transformation. But what are the use cases? Where are we spending this money? So it's fair to say that what was considered impossible in 19 is now proven for good. Ship operation, we have been looking at bringing training online at sea with companies like Tapit, were able to broadcast a live class directly into the ship. We have been working as Inmarsat, for instance, with the Lloyd Register, with class societies, to bring remote surveys, live streaming at sea, and actually do operation like an annual survey at sea instead of when the ship is in port, when it's the busiest time for the crew. We have been looking at remote pilotage in order to reduce the need to bring a pilot on board the ship, and therefore, risking health issues. Telemedicine, we Beacon already held in 2020, we were deploying a service of a doctor house call on video conference in order to support the crews. Ship management, definitely video conference. There are companies like partners like Frontem who actually are able to bring a video conference in a very efficient way on a dedicated bandwidth, so without disrupting other operation. We are looking at CCTV solution with Bright3 or Harvest technology, the latest partner of Inmarsat. Port operations. By May 2021, 41% of the ports were already going ahead with the investment, and 5% of them were even accelerating their investment. And what are the ports looking at? Applying ETA, estimated time over hour, to deliver a just-in-time concept. So this idea to be able to get the ship just in time when is available for docking and for taking the goods off. Awake AI was one of those startups who actually won the opportunity to work with Finnish ports. So even startups have in this area the opportunity to actually get the good opportunities with ports. The last one is trade facilitation. The World Trade Organization and a trade facilitation agreement include portals, digital tools for customs to exchange data, and predictions say that a full implementation of those solutions will bring a reduction of 14.3% in trade cost. Digital Container Shipping Association is calling for 50% adoption of the electronic bill of lading by 2030. So a lot has been happening. A lot that was impossible, considered impossible in 2019 is now happening. What's next? What is the next challenge? Well, the long-term challenge remains decarbonization. To get there, we need to definitely change the fuel infrastructure, moving to lower carbon like LNG, or even without carbon like ammonia. But that's a complex, a lengthy process. Just think that took 97 years to remove the tetraethyl lead from the petrol supply chain. But digital tools are actually an immediate remedy. There is evidence, documented evidence of fleet-wide fuel saving up to 20% from changing the handling behavior of the crew on the bridge. Digital tools can already take us closer to our targets. But what are the barriers for introducing these digital tools? What are the barriers to digital transformation? It's a complex supply chain. The cost savings are difficult to demonstrate in a solution where the owners needs to buy a piece of equipment, a capex. There is a ship manager running the operation, and maybe the benefit gets to a charter who is paying for the fuel. Every ship is a island. When you get on board the ship, every ship is different. The systems are disjoint, and it's very difficult to actually extract the data from the ship. Last one is a lack of standardization. There is still a strong resistance of several parties across the supply chain to share data in a standardized format. More in general, the challenges are on connectivity. We need a level of connectivity which is secure. There are no threats possibly getting into the ship. There is enough capacity, enough bandwidth to support a good user experience, for instance, in video conference, and is always available when needed. It needs to be available in order to reduce disruption to operation. Accuracy. When we look at data, we look at fidelity of the data, therefore having the right accuracy and precision. We look at the contextual setting. We look at the type of and amount of data that needs to reflect the context. We need not few data. We need not a huge amount of data set. We need just enough what is right to reflect the context. And eventually, traceability of data. Data shall not be tampered with and should be, in a way, auditable. The last one is crew dynamics. We definitely, whatever solution we want to bring, definitely has to have the minimal level of crew involvement in order to not add load to an already very busy crew. Has to meet the level of skills of the crew, and even with the required development, and has to be safe. It does not actually have to increase or add safety threats to the operation. So what is the role of infrastructure providers like Inmarsat? Well, definitely we can provide the capacity. Activities like the one of orchestra, the seamless connection of different technology that goes from Ka and L-band satellites, and the addition of LEO and terrestrial is definitely a way to actually deliver the right amount of capacity where is needed during the ship and the voyage, and looking at a solution that is proof for the future when we look at things like remote and autonomous shipping. ELERA, again, with the foundation into the IoT, but also the latest launch of the I6, the Inmarsat 6, which was launched now in December, which is the largest and most advanced satellite ever launched, which is going to increase even more the capacity and the speed of our network. But it's not only about capacity, but actually we move into enabling digital solution. We're talking about IoT platform to facilitate the deployment of solution that needs data from sensors, but at the same time keep the ship owner, the ship manager in control of their data. We're talking about hosting platforms like an app store to enable remote deployment on demand without actually getting technicians on board, and therefore without disrupting the operation. We're talking a segregated bandwidth, a dedicated bandwidth for the application in order to enable a more flexible and safer management of the application, avoiding impact to the crew connectivity. There is a lot that people like Inmarsat are actually doing today in order to enable and accelerate digital transformation. It's not a journey that we can do alone. It's a teamwork. We have already in 2021 worked with our partner to deliver a digital transformation to companies like Maersk, where we both connected companies like SKF to their equipment to do monitoring of the bearing of the shafts through a dedicated bandwidth, so in order to have a safe, secure, and reliable connection. We have companies like Ixnay, who actually have been exploiting the data infrastructure, the IoT infrastructure that we built for Maersk in order to be able to deliver without actually ever never getting on board. we have been working with companies like Roldoc, and we foresee to make sure that they have the data infrastructure and the connectivity required to deliver their solution. And not the last, the work that we have been doing with Load Register to enable remote survey that now has been tested and has been in a commercial setting already for quite some months. And again, those are the solution who are saving the time and effort and eventually money when it comes to enabling the deployment of the solution. Let me conclude. Yes, we have accelerated digitalization and a transition to a more efficient, sustainable, and safer shipping. And no, it's not enough. And ahead, we have to win the challenge for decarbonization. Yes, digital solutions are a solution in the short terms, and we need the enabling capabilities of connectivity and digital platforms that Inmarsat and alike can actually provide. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi, Marco. Thank you very much for that. I hope you can hear me okay, and I hope you can hear me well in the room. Very interesting. And we have a few questions for you, so I hope you have a couple of minutes. I'm going to start with the long one, which is actually a few questions kind of in one, but all on the same theme. We spoke about a lack of standardization being a barrier to digitalization. So is there anything that Inmarsat can do to encourage or support standards development? Or are you dependent on others making that move? And if so, well, on both sides, who are the most important stakeholders in driving standardization?
That's a it is an excellent question. It's a very long question. It's a very long topic, and also in the Smart Maritime Network here in our council, we have been discussed to extent this topic, and I guess Rob will share some of the notes. But in general,
that question may have come from Rob as well.
Yeah, it might come from him. So it's an excellent question. It is a challenge today because every single maker of a piece of equipment on board the ship is, for a reason or another, using their own standard. There are ISO standard. There are standard also, advice and suggestion from IMO, but there is no requirement. There is no mandatory requirement to actually use one specific standard. So we are far away from being where aviation or the car industry is today, with a standard setting where you can just plug in and you have a CPU, a centralized unit who can actually read the data as they come from the sensors. So obviously, as Inmarsat, we are nurturing the relationship with the several OEMs, the original equipment manufacturer, so to make sure that we have the interfaces required for the ship manager, for the benefit of the ship manager and the ship owner, for us, for our IoT infrastructure to extract the data and host them on a cloud storage. So the effort still today is, let's say, unilateral. We as Inmarsat, likely we don't pose a threat. We are not a competitor of an engine maker or a thruster maker. So we can act as a, let's say, third party and as those glue to connect those equipment, those data, and enable the extraction from the ship to the ship manager. We are working with the OEMs to actually get closer to have one standard. And at the same time, we are part of, for instance, like the Smart Maritime Council, is still an open dialogue. But until we get the IMO, whatever, or we get the standard that becomes mandatory, it's still down to the relationship between companies to be able to connect as many components as possible on board the ship, extract as many data as possible.
Okay, thanks, Marco. A couple more questions for you, which I'll race through so that we can get our next presenter up in time. But these are quite interesting. So, one is what impact, if any, does the acquisition of Inmarsat by Viasat have on your development plans?
So obviously, I cannot comment in general on something that has not happened yet. And so we are all holding to when that actually happens. So definitely what I can say is that when that will happen, the Viasat Inmarsat will be the largest provider of telecommunication on Earth. So definitely there is a capacity to boost even further our investment and grow even further. And that is what is behind this acquisition is actually growth. So I'm definitely positive and looking forward for the end of this operation. Although I cannot tell anything more because it's not happening yet.
Yeah. One more question for you then. How has blockchain technology impacted the solutions that Inmarsat's providing?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Blockchain. So blockchain has been a big hype back to 3 years ago, and we have the lens. We have a lot of platforms who started to work with blockchain. Not the last one, the one of Veracity, for instance, within DGL, we see using technology of blockchain to make sure that actually we do not tamper with the data, and we have that element of traceability and auditable data chain. So definitely, blockchain is a technology which can deliver specifically that element of traceability and auditability in a way. Today, in the solution that we provide in Maritime in digital, like the fleet data, we don't have that element because at this moment we provide we solve the challenge of the infrastructure. So the challenge of actually collecting the data on board the ship as a third party, collecting the data with all the components of the ship, solving the problem of connectivity, so having a reliable connection to extract the data, and solving the problem of sharing the data on behalf of the ship and the ship owner when they want to share the data with the application provider, in order to solve the problem of actually sending somebody every single time and install a new piece of hardware. That is the challenge that we set to solve. We'll definitely, in a further improvement and development of solution, blockchain is definitely an opportunity to also improve the auditability and the traceability of the entire data chain.